Welcome, everyone, to the T-Rap Show with your host, Trapper Goldsmith, where we showcase elite athletes and sport individuals with their inspiring stories and rise to glory in their pursuit of everlasting greatness. Today is a special episode. Not only is Fred Winters an absolute legend in the volleyball world, but he was also a guy I looked up to coming through the volleyball ranks in BC. This guy's resume is longer than back-to-back marathons. His standout career started when he was 15. He played professionally all over Europe for more than a decade. He has one of the longest volleyball careers professionally than just about anyone, including a standout four-year career at Pepperdine University, where he recorded 1,500 kills. He led Team Canada at the 2016 Olympics in Rio, their first appearance at an Olympic Games since 1992. When you talk about Canadian volleyball, Fred Winters' name is not far from the conversation. And today, we're going to talk about playing a physically intense sport for so long, the mental side of being dominant at an early age, having a long career as he did, how much it meant to qualify for an Olympic Games, how you go from good to great. Hey, we might even talk about his insanely large shoe collection. And we're going to find out what's next for the great Fred Winters. So adjust the channel, don't adjust, listen in, jump up, smash it. We're going to get into it. Fred, welcome, man. Fired up to have you as a guest today.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's get into it. I remember playing against you. It was an invitational tournament at UBC. And everybody's talking about this Fred Winters guy. And we're just in high school, but you're smashing it like you've been playing 2 years university ball already. Was it always volleyball for you, or did you play other sports growing up?
I played a lot of sports growing up. Volleyball is just situational, like where I grew up. There happened to be coaches that really cared about volleyball. And I grew up around I grew up in Saanich in Victoria, just upper middle class neighborhood, I'd say. But the coaches really cared about volleyball. And we had a really good group of athletes that were playing all sports. I played baseball, soccer, basketball was my favorite sport, and volleyball. And the only reason that I'm so into volleyball is just from my high school experience with Sean Ryan. So give him a shout out early on. He's a high school coach, but he would actually come to the middle school where I was at and keep an eye on us and almost recruit. He knew we were all coming up to Claremont, is where I went to high school, and he kept tabs on us. And I think what he wanted to do was get us to play volleyball in addition to playing basketball, because they're very, very similar athletes, I'd say.
Yeah.
So, and the volleyball season was before the basketball season. So that was always a key for him to get us in on the volleyball team. And he made it really fun. And we were really successful in high school. So that's, I forget what your question was, but that's how I got into volleyball pretty much.
That's cool though, because I think sometimes coaches don't realize the impact they had on. So I was blessed to have a phenomenal coach, Mike Nelson. Coach, he actually recruited me as well. I hadn't even thought about volleyball, but I sprouted going into grade 10. I think I sprouted 2 inches. I went through a huge growth spurt, and I was doing track and field and cross country running. He was like, hey, like you should come try out for the volleyball team. And the impact he had on my life and pursuing my volleyball career was huge.
It's amazing now, or just thinking back, like all the avenues I could have gone in sport. I'm not saying I'd be as successful in the other ones, but I had options to go. If I even wanted to play tackle football. Rugby was huge in Victoria, and like I was a bigger dude, so like they all wanted me to play rugby, but the seasons kind of overlapped, right? Like it's just volleyball and basketball were the main sports that I chose to pursue.
So were you always tall then? You were kind of taller than average?
I was pretty steady grower. I always remember how tall I was when I was 12 because I had a baseball card made for Little League, and I was 5'8", 125 pounds when I was 12. So I guess that's what, like grade 7 or 8 or something. And then I just had a steady kind of growth. I think I was about 6'4", 6'5" in grade 12. Didn't grow up, just grew out.
Yeah, started filling in.
Much. Yeah, started filling out. Yeah.
So early, like I said, you were a standout at that tournament and early on. How much training at that age or extra training outside of playing? I mean, I think I remember when we were playing club ball, we were playing at least 5 days a week. How much extra training did you do, or was it just like you were really gifted at that age?
Yeah, I think it was the training is nothing like it is now. Kids who are really serious about it have weight trainers full time. These are high school kids. They're doing like individual sessions with coaches. We didn't do any of that. We played high school and we had a club season, and the two best high schools formed to make one club team called the Victoria Alliance. And we're a really, really strong team. And both high school coaches co-coached the club team. So we weren't doing anything outside of our normal practice times. And it definitely, I don't think it was 5 times a week. I mean, we would play tournaments every weekend. I can't even remember how much we were training, but I didn't do any weight training. The first weight I lifted was when I was in 12th grade. That was the first time I worked out. Whereas now, kids are in their 9th grade.
Oh yeah.
Really getting after it in the weight room. So yeah, my experience with that was, we were kind of gym rats, but it wasn't like we were 6 days waking up at 5 a.m. type of thing. No, it was way more casual than that. So coaches did a good job, I guess.
I joke, man, the 90s was when sport was fun. It was like, I grew up racing motocross before I got into volleyball and golf, obviously. But it was like the top racers at that time joked about race, and then you go for beers after, and sports not like that now.
Without sounding like the biggest old head ever, though, like apart from the drinking, I wasn't drinking in high school, but we were just pretty casual about it. But we were also very good, so we were already provincial champs and top in our leagues we participated in. So it was like didn't give us the sense of urgency, maybe.
Right. Yeah. Wasn't drinking in high school, just in case your parents watched the show.
I wasn't. I think maybe 12th grade. I had my first like drinking session. Pretty late, I think, for most people.
So what's the opportunities for an up and coming player in Canada? There's kind of like club ball, there's Team BC, the junior national team. Like, is there a lot of opportunity for up and coming volleyball players in Canada?
It's so funny because like my experience is like 25 years ago now, which is crazy.
It flies by.
So it's changed a lot, but yeah, for when I was growing up, there was a lot. Club volleyball was big. High school volleyball was big. Mm-hmm. You had junior national team. You had provincial teams that I was on all through the ranks. The opportunity was good. I think the big thing that's changed now is the after team training, like specializing. I think kids are, you probably talked about this a lot, specializing in a sport. Yeah. And it's easy for someone who like became really successful in a sport to say you shouldn't specialize, because I didn't specialize, but I had a pretty good career in volleyball. So it's very easy for me to say, oh, you don't need to. But a vast majority of people have to specialize if they want to get a scholarship, get noticed, or turn pro. It's just a fact. So
it's just become so competitive.
Yeah, I'm not really against specializing. I just know the route I took, and it was great. Played all sports. I like to think of myself as a well-rounded athlete versus just a volleyball. I don't even tell people I played volleyball anymore.
No, you tell them you're a golfer.
Yeah. When I do tell people I played volleyball, they say, "Oh, oh man, I'm on a co-ed grass league. Do you want to come out and play? Like someone's sick. Can you join us? It's just like, it happens all the time. And I love just saying, no, I'm not going to play. Why?
Good.
Why not? I'm like, because you guys suck.
Yeah.
You guys are terrible. And I'm so out of shape. It's just a lose for me. I can't look good.
And okay, so you went to Pepperdine after. Talk like what? How did that decision come about? Why that school?
So my thing was I wanted to go D1 for basketball. That was like
Really?
my goal. It was my
Oh,
goal, but I didn't take steps to achieve it so much because I wasn't a great. I was 6'5", so you play D1. I'm going to have to play shooting guard or whatever, small forward, point guard now. But I wasn't a shooter because shooting wasn't a thing when I was growing up. It's like, so I didn't do extra reps in the gym. My high school coach said, you gotta shoot if you're going to be like something.
yeah.
And so he was right, but it wasn't like there were no coaches. We didn't even have club basketball in Victoria really. So that was my big thing. Then I kind of realized, okay, well, I could play CIS or CIAU basketball, no problem. Like I had some teams wanting me to sign with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I was good. I was also good in volleyball, and I started getting recruited by some schools in the States. And like I was pro going down there, getting my education paid for, and basically going to California. I was like,
Yeah.
that beats going to
Good place to be.
Alberta, University of Alberta, or no disrespect, but I'm sorry.
Yeah. Come on.
Weather-wise. So I started getting recruited by a couple schools like Stanford recruited me, and Pepperdine, and not too many others, like nothing big. But the Pepperdine one was cool, just the mystique, man. That's
Mm.
honestly what it was. You hear that name, it has like a special ring, everyone recognizes it, it's unique. And then I basically got recruited and went down on a visit, and I want to say we were down at a tournament there, and then we did a visit, and my mom came with me to my visit.
On
They
your
put
initial
her
visit.
up. They put her up in the
Okay.
Malibu Beach Inn. It's like a nice hotel on the beach in Malibu, and I stayed obviously with the players
Yeah.
on campus. And then she had meetings with the coaches, and this is what she told me. She's like, "Well, he can't be a 25% or 50% scholarship. Like
Right.
I can't afford to send him here. You have to pay for everything." So she just, if you want him to sign there, you pay for everything, 100% scholarship, and then they followed through with it. So I got a full ride, which is not common in D1 back then. I don't know how it is now, but it's like when I went there, I think they had 4.5 because of Title IX.
Right.
They had 4.5 scholarships to give to, then they can spread them out between, Pepperdine. We had 20 players on the roster, but
Right.
12 recruited players.
Yeah.
So I was lucky, man. My mom
Mm.
did the work for me, and it was just matter of fact.
You hired her as an agent after that.
She was my first agent for sure. And so it worked out. Like I was lucky. It's an expensive school. I mean, everyone knows, I think US schools charge an arm and a leg, man, especially
Yeah.
private Christian schools in Malibu. It's not cheap. So I can believe, I know what the tuition was when I went there. And I was like, this is absurd, man.
Crazy.
How I'm just glad I didn't go into any debt going to school. I
And
graduated in 4 years too, which is big.
and how much of a different level was the caliber of play when you went to Pepperdine and you're playing D1 compared to I mean, you'd already played for Team BC. You played some pretty high
Yeah.
caliber ball, but how
Yeah.
much of a level up was it?
The the guys my age, I think my class is kind of weaker. 82. I'm born in 82. But the 83 class is in Canada is really good. 84 is good. So, and I grew up kind of playing those guys, and they're all good. I played with a lot of them on the national team.
Yeah.
And lots of them went to Alberta, UBC. So they were all, the level's very comparable. I'm talking about for like high school kids going into university, but obviously when you get to university, you're playing with guys that are older than you and have had the extra training. Mm-hmm. And I think the training that we got at Pepperdine with Marv Dunphy, who's like a legendary Olympic gold medal winning coach, gave us a huge advantage. My first year though, I was terrible. They also switched positions. I switched positions. I was an opposite, kind of in my last bit of club in high school. Yeah. And then they knew because they could tell I was a high skilled player, but also had some good physical attributes. They wanted to make me a left side, passing, attacking, hitting, blocking, serving, just doing everything, playing defense. So the first year was tough because I had to switch to the left side, and I started as a freshman, and it was me and our fourth year, like All-American Scott Wong was his name. He's like a legend from Hawaii, and he was like a stud volleyball player, and it was like me and him were the starters, and it was a big contrast because he was a super polished player and I was pretty raw, couldn't really receive. So my first year was I was pretty bad, but I got a full year of training and playing at a higher level. And then I went to the Canada Games in 2000. And after my first year of university, I got to go to the Canada Games. I don't know how it works now, but that was like huge. So I played university ball. Most of our team BC had. And then I just went and I felt really comfortable. I had improved so much in 1 year and we won with it was a bunch of guys that went to UBC that I played on provincial team a lot with, and we just gelled and won that. So that was like the first big deal tournament that I won.
So talk about that, Fred. Like, what did you really learn? Because you said there wasn't really any outside training at a high school level, and you really grew that first year. What did you learn about the game and getting better and improving? What were some big lessons you took away from that first year?
Yeah, I put on weight too, because I was in the gym. Like I think I was like 210 when I graduated high school, and I was like 225 after my first year. Pretty big. I'm probably the opposite of what you have of the athletes you have on here, because I am not in my own head kind of guy. And it's not that I don't just subscribe to mental health training and things like that. But when I grew up, it wasn't really a thing. Like we didn't have 100%. At Pepperdine, we didn't even have sport. I can't even remember if we had sports psychologists like available to us. So I was more a figure it out on my own kind of guy. And I mean, I was good at a younger age, so I didn't get in my own head. I was just, I don't know. I don't want to sound like cocky or anything, but I didn't struggle that much growing up in sport. Yeah. So I
sometimes that better if you could just shut it off and not. When you're working on the mental game, you're almost getting analytical. Yeah. And then, you're trying to process it. But if you could just shut that off and just.
Yeah. I will say there was one thing at Pepperdine, like I was on full ride in my freshman year, wasn't so good. I mean, I was okay. I think we lost in the first round of the playoffs or something, but I was like maybe thinking, oh shoot, I gotta like earn my spot, right? Because they're paying me to go there. So there was maybe a little bit of that, but whatever that was, kind of, I went back to Canada between my freshman and first and second year or whatever, and won the Canada Games. It gave me a lot of confidence, and went back and had a really good second year. So, I mean, I lessons I learned from my first year were, mental lessons, not much. I just knew what I was getting into my second year, had the Canada Games. I was stronger. That's about it.
So you got heavier, you put on muscle mass, but most people might think, okay, like in volleyball where your jump is important, isn't putting on weight a disadvantage?
I think it depends on your frame. Like you got a guy with chicken legs putting on upper body weight, that's going to take its toll. But I had a bigger frame, so I was okay with it. I mean, you could be any size. I mean, if the numbers are the numbers, if you could swing your arm, you can hit the ball hard, you can jump, and you can move, then you can be any weight. I mean, you don't. It's just the prototypical volleyball player is definitely tall and slender.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the best athletes I think are football and basketball players, and they're pretty big, some of them, and they can move. So I mean, I think I've played against beasts in pro volleyball, like absolute freaks. Gabriel Zobo Lebe is a French guy. And he was like an MMA fighter in Japan after his volleyball career. He was just like, he looked like a linebacker, and he was a great volleyball player. So
who's the guy from Cuba? He had like a 50-inch vert.
Lionel Marshall. Yeah, left side. I played against him.
Did you?
Played against him a lot. Yeah, I played against him at the end of his career and mine in Portugal. Man. He could still jump, man. He was like over 40 years old, but you could tell he had springs. He could still jump.
You're going up to block, and he's like still going up, still climbing, and you're like, what is going on here? Yeah, some of his YouTube highlight reels, man, are just
he's crazy.
Yeah. So then, okay, you turned pro. When did you know? When did you know in your mind you were going to play pro? You're like,
this is crazy. This is crazy because nowadays kids are in 9th grade saying they're going to go play pro.
Yeah.
I finished my 4th year of university like in 04, I was graduating. And before I graduated, I applied because I was in the States. I applied to have like my student visa extended. They had a thing, I forget what it was called, but it's like you apply for it so you can stay and do an internship.
Yeah.
Stay in the US as a Canadian. Yeah. It's for graduates from there, so they can stay and do an internship and extend their student visa to see if they're going to get hired. So I actually applied for that. That's how late I didn't know that I was going to go play pro. And I had one summer on the national team. So I'd only been on the national team for 1 year. I think 03 was my first year, but it was a big year because we had some big tournaments that I got to go to.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like sure of pro. It just wasn't like, it wasn't a thing back then. You didn't really know about it. And then graduated, went back and played with the national team in the summer. Didn't end up staying with some advertising or marketing job in California. And then got offered that summer to go play pro, and I took it.
Which is crazy because you were a standout coming up. I remember going to an invitational tournament at the UFC, and in the gymnasium they had like a spike. They had marks on the wall, and it was like, okay, spark how high you'd spike the ball, right? And so for listeners that don't understand, when you spike the ball, it bounces up, and then it would hit the wall on a certain mark. And I remember even like they had the university players, they had some high school, players in there, and then the UFC team. And then you look way up.
I think that was at
way up. And there's freaking Fred Winters way at the top mark. No one's even close to him. And we were still playing high school ball. Like, so to hear that from you.
Juice balls. No, that was at Okanagan, UBCO. Because that's where our provincials was, and they had a spike competition and they had a spike-o-meter, and people told me my name was like no one came close for like 20 years after. I don't think the tournament is there anymore, but it was just like the stars aligned for that one. And it was on YouTube. It was on YouTube, and I had hundreds of people say, "Oh, I saw your video on YouTube." It's not on YouTube anymore. I don't know where it is.
They took it
I don't
down.
have the video. I don't have the video.
Oh, the
which kind of
legend
sucks.
of Fred Winters dies on YouTube.
Yeah, it's dead.
But it's crazy for me to hear you say, yeah, like, and I guess that's kind of an attestment to what you talked about. Like, you didn't really process things. It was just, you were just playing volleyball, man.
Yeah, the
fun
access to pro volleyball for kids in university. Like now the games are on YouTube. Everyone has Instagram. Like all your favorite teams are on Instagram highlights. Like I didn't know pro. I knew pro existed, but it wasn't like a thing.
Yeah.
Until I signed my first contract, and I was like, holy, this is great. I'm doing better than all my recent graduated friends that are
at their marketing jobs.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, this is legit.
And you were fortunate enough on that topic to have 6-figure contracts for most of your career, but that's not common for Canadian players, is it?
No, I think it is now, but back then it wasn't. And I think the best, we had such a bad name internationally. I honestly think the rep for Canadians were like, if you get a good one, he's good, they work hard, they don't cause problems, and you don't have to pay them a lot.
Right.
That was honestly the rep, because we had guys on our national team. Most of our national team were playing in France, which is a great league, but it's not a big money league at all.
Yeah.
And lots of our national team players were playing there. And that's where I started my career. But yeah, I think that was the wrap. We had a couple guys make good money for sure, but not like Brazilian, Serbian, Russian players, or just a European, more established.
Yeah,
for sure. We were getting underpaid.
Probably just because your mom, you had such a good agent that she was getting you those contracts.
Yeah, when I switched and hired a real agency, I got screwed over.
Yeah. And Fred, what's the level of play over there compared? So now, okay, you've played high level D1. Now you're going overseas to play pro, where it wasn't as common back then. Yeah. Was it like a big learning curve going over there?
Yeah. Again, it was a big learning curve for me going even from D1 to pro. I was just like, I went over when I was 21 or 21, I think. And just by myself, I had a tiny, small apartment. The biggest thing though, and I'll go back and talk about it, is like high school, I had a great coach. Also a club coach from White Rock. Her name was Sharon Carter. Yeah. Great coach, cared a lot, took me to California. That's how I got recruited. My university coaches were great. Marv Dunphy and Jeff Stork. Marv, the coach, Jeff Stork was a gold medal winning setter and like a real technician and a really smart volleyball player. And obviously with the national team, I had some really good coaches like Glenn Hogue, even Stelio DeRocco was a good coach for the style of player he was. He was that kind of coach. Totally different from Glenn, but I like them both. But then I go to my first year pro and I had a terrible coach, and I don't mind naming him. His name's Martin Teffer, Dutch guy. Oh, I'll throw him under the bus because he was terrible. And he didn't coach that much after that. Or if he did, it was his first job abroad coaching. He was a good player. I think he played on the 96 Dutch gold medal winning team. Great player, terrible coach. Didn't develop me, didn't give me any confidence my first year. I got hurt in October of my first year, and I didn't know how to manage my injury, and the team didn't manage it. So I had a bad first year, I would say. We had a great team, but I had a bad first year. So I was concerned. Definitely.
And then did you move teams after for the next year?
Yeah. They didn't want to keep me. I did not want to stay there. And I left and I went to a team. In a worse league, Innsbruck, which is like a traditional volleyball team in Europe. Everyone knows about them, but they're in a bad league, but they play Champions League, which is huge exposure for young players. And I had a good coach, Pietro Scarduzio, Italian guy.
Yeah.
taught me how to receive. I was doing in pro. This is my second year of pro, and he had me on the rope, like a piece of wood, and then you tie a rope to the two ends of it, and you put it around your neck, so it keeps the wood keeps your arms like raised up to receive. I was doing that in training with a bunch of other pros, like embarrassing shit, right? But taught me how to pass.
But it worked.
And it worked. I had a really good year. We won the championship. We played in Champions League. I played really well in Champions League. And then I pretty much a lot of big teams wanted to sign me after that. So it was a good move. It was a good move.
And you went to Beijing as well. You won their first championship with
yeah, that was a bit
team?
later. Yeah, that was a bit later. So that was in 2012. Signed with a team in China. Agent called me and said, "Hey, would you go to China? Like, it's good money. They haven't had foreigners before in a professional capacity. They hadn't really done it." I said, "Sure, why not? I mean, I was going wherever I got paid the most money. Let's be honest. Athletes don't say that enough, but it's so true for 95% of the athletes."
Right.
So I went to Beijing I got to go with Steve Brinkman, another Canadian, and a Cuban guy. So we had 3 foreigners, and we won. We won the league, and Beijing hadn't won the Chinese domestic league in 30 years. Wow. So it was a big deal that we won.
Yeah.
Really big deal.
Well, all the golfers on Live Golf Tour would agree with you. Sometimes, you exactly. Make a decision for the money.
I mean, I don't we're going to pay you more money to do less work. You can't argue with that. I don't care if it's Saudi money or whatever, your thoughts on that politically. They're not political figures. They're just getting paid to play golf. If they were going to pay me more to play in Kazakhstan, triple, quadruple the money, guess where I'm going to go play? And if it sucks, I won't come back.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So
I'm
Fred,
a pro live guy. I'm a pro live guy, if you couldn't tell. Like I don't
I see both sides of it. Obviously being the podcast host, I got to be diplomatic.
Neutral.
I see both sides.
I'm pro PGA too. I love the PGA too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I if it meant not playing in the Masters, then I wouldn't be able to do it.
I knew that they would let them play.
Yeah.
I knew they would there's no way Augusta would say, "Hey, you know what? Bubba, Phil,
previous champion. Yeah, you can't come back.
Bubba, Phil, they got a bunch. Cam Smith. Like, you think they'd say no? You can't. You're not welcome. No way. Not with their shady past.
Yeah. So, in talking about that, the green jacket and cups, what were some of your most memorable wins, Fred?
My most memorable wins were in Brazil. We won we won a lot of titles in Brazil. I played there for 2 years. Nice. We won the World Club Championship. We won the Brazilian Championship 2 years in a row. The most memorable one was my first year in Brazil. We won the championship, but it was in a big stadium in Belo Horizonte, which is where the team was located, and I think there was 23,000 people there, like more than a Canucks game.
Wow.
And it was crazy. It was just the biggest crowd I played in front of. Played well in the game. We won. It just capped off a really fun year for me and my wife down there. And that was memorable. I got a bunch of titles. Like, I won half of my years I played. I think I won 7 or 8 titles, which is like every year there's a bunch of little tournaments you play in as a pro. There's a cup, or there's a Champions League or a European Cup, but your domestic league is the main thing. Like, the premiership title in football is like what you're trying to win every year. And I was able to do that with a lot of teams. So all those are memorable. I mean, it's just nice to win, man. I got addicted to it because
winning is
it is
more fun than
addicting.
fun.
Yeah, it is. It is, and even like some titles, I was like a bench player, and like yeah, it sucks to be on the bench, but when the final whistle blows or the
Yeah, you
bill's
still get
gone,
a
like
ring.
you're just partying just as hard
Yeah,
as the starters. Like it's still a good time.
no doubt.
Yeah,
Okay, let's jump to the 2016 Rio Olympics. I know that was a dream of yours to play in the Olympics, but
yeah,
you were actually a healthy scratch for the qualifying.
yeah.
And I know personally that we learn more from our losses, not our wins. How important was that coming back and really fighting to get on the Rio team and even being a captain for it? Like that was
Yeah, that was a crazy summer because I had come back from Brazil my pro year. This is summer of 2016. Or during that year, we had a qualifier in January in Edmonton. It was like our zone qualifier. If we
yeah.
win, we go to Rio. It was all set up for us. It was like us, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and another team. I forget who. And we played. Uh, we were fine the whole tournament, and there's a couple interesting things happened. Like I didn't think I was going to be able to play because I hurt my knee, and the physio we had there like saved me. Like I don't know, his name's Nicola Waugh, uh, and he saved my knee. He worked really hard, and I didn't really tell anyone about my knee. Like I was like with him, and I'm like, man, you keep doing what you're doing. Like I'm able to play here, and so that was nice. And I played, but we just blew it in the finals against Cuba. And one of the weird things about that tournament was our I think Gavin was injured, Gavin Schmidt, our big
Yep.
right side,
I know
and
Gavin.
Dallas Sunius was our starting opposite and played pretty well during the tournament. And Glenn started Nick Hogue at opposite for that final game against Cuba, which
Yep.
like Nick is a great player, but he's a left side player. And he started Nick just to switch it up or kind of throw a wrench in Cuba. And I don't know if it affected Cuba at all, but it certainly maybe affected us. But we just kind of blew it. They served so well, they beat us. That was really a tough moment. I had to go back to my pro team, dejected. I knew we'd get another chance to qualify in the summer at a last
Right.
chance qualifier, but man, we had it right in our hands.
But in all fairness, at that time, Cuba was no slouch. Like they were a top team.
We had been handling Cuba though.
Yeah.
The 3-0 we were a favorite in that game for sure, and we lost 3-0, and they just served really well. We couldn't handle it. But no, we had been handling Cuba. They were no slouch for sure, like 10 years before, but they had lost all their big pro players. So we were for sure confident. It wasn't like it was a big time choke job. But anyways, got back from my pro team. We had training before. And the qualifier, the last chance qualifier was like in April or May, like pretty early in the summer season. And like all Glenn said to me when I didn't go to that tournament, he's just like, I don't think you're in good enough shape to go. Like it's a grind of a tournament. I think we played 7 matches in 9 days or something.
Yeah.
And that's all he said to me. And I was surprised because I like whether or not I'm in shape, I could serve, I could pass. I was a good defender. I was like a reliable hitter. So I was a little bit taken aback by that. That sucked. But the guys qualified. So they went to Japan and played in this crazy tournament. And the guys qualified. And then basically it was after we knew we were in, it was like, okay, you travel with 14 in World League, and then the Olympics is a 12-man roster. Like it's cutthroat. It should be 14, but it's 12. So it was basically, we had a whole World League schedule to kind of prove our worth. And so I ended up going to all the World League events and, doing well, wasn't lighting it up. But I was in shape. And then we made it to the World League finals for tier 2. This is like before this is just, they change it every year. I don't know. It was in Portugal, and we played and we won that tier 2 World League, which is a big deal. And then Glenn was announcing the team after that in the hotel, and picked me on the team. It was very emotional because it had been like
I bet.
I tried in 04, 08, 2012, 2016. I basically got cut from the team that qualified. So I wasn't there when they finally did, which they qualified by Poland beating someone.
Yeah.
So Canada kind of took care of what they had to do. And then Poland, who's really strong, had to beat a lesser team. And thank God they took care of business and did it. So that's how we qualified, which is awesome. And I wasn't there for that, so that was tough. But
it also motivated you. Over that.
Definite motivation. I mean, I knew what I could do, and I would have been upset if I didn't make that Olympic team.
Yeah.
So I can sit here and say, like, well, you said at the beginning, like, it was always a goal of mine to go to the Olympics. And like, I don't necessarily agree with that, because the Olympics is different and people don't understand this, like general people. Like, only 12 teams go to the Olympics. There's only 12 guys on a roster. It's once every 4 years. It's not the best teams in the world. The World Championships is a way better tournament. There's double the teams. It's a more stringent qualifying process, and 14 guys get to go. The teams are stronger. Like, it wasn't a dream of mine to go to the Olympics because I knew that about it, and I was fair. And
how hard it was.
Like, how hard it was. And there's guys I was a better player than some guys that went to 4 Olympics because they were just from the right nation or like in the right positions. We have guys in Canada that for sure are like Olympian caliber athletes in volleyball, but they didn't go because Cuba and US were top 5 in the world for most of my volleyball career, and one team from our zone goes, plus a last chance if you happen to win that. So it wasn't like, but the public is like, do you go to the Olympics? You went to the Olympics? Oh, what place did you get? I'm like, well, we got 5th, which is an amazing result.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, too bad. It's like, no, man, honestly,
you don't realize how good that is. Yeah.
Without sounding like without sounding like a non-competitive athlete, like just making it is a huge deal for volleyball specifically.
Yeah. All right. So I got to fire my fact checker. It was not a dream of Fred's. Fred calling me out on my own show. No,
I mean, I'm kidding. It's a dream to go to the Olympics for sure, but didn't consume me the way it, honestly, Volleyball Canada and our funding and stuff is based around Olympics.
Yeah.
And I don't think it should be, but it's where they get the most money and most funding, because the Olympics is, it's like a big money maker. It's
right.
Whatever you want to think about it, corrupt how they do the selection of the cities and whatnot, but it's big money. So
what do you think held you guys back the previous years qualifying? What held the team back?
I did 4 quads with the national team, basically, like broken up into 4 Olympic years, more or less. Well, yeah, 4 attempts to qualify for the Olympics. And I would say in 04, I can break it down between how good our team was for each section, like, and what we were really good at, and then what we were bad at and what we were missing. And like, each quad kind of had their strength and weakness, in my opinion, right? Like when I first joined the team, we had really good players, like top level talent, top level middles. We had Paul Durden, who was like one of the best opposites. but I'll say like our left sides were kind of weak. It's like when I joined the team,
Yeah.
we couldn't pass and we couldn't serve. Then in 08, we were like, in 08, we lost in Puerto Rico in the qualifier to, I think Puerto Rico knocked us out. And we just, from what I remember from that one, it was me and Dan Lewis were the left sides, and Dan was always injured. He got like hit with the injury bug all the time in big games. And again, I'd say like our left sides and maybe our setting was a bit weaker. Our middles and opposites were strong. Then in 2012, I would say we lost in Long Beach, California to the US. Competitive. I think we lost 3-0, but it was close. And we had a good team, but US was so polished. They had been to all the Olympics. They were competing in World League. The teams were skill wise like pretty level, but they had more experience and they beat us. And in 16 we had, I guess 2012 and 2016 was like the emergence of our opposites. Like Dallas started to get really good, and then Gavin came along, and Gavin was literally one of the best opposites in the world, like a top 5 opposite.
Yeah.
And that gave us like this opened it up for our team, because we had this like go-to player, but also like our left sides were good. Our middles were strong. I would say like in 16, we were developing like Dustin Schneider was our setter, and he was a really good player, good locator of the ball, but he had real injury problems with his knees. He got cheated a bit on his career, but he really did a lot with like the injuries he had, like microfracture surgery here, like came back from that. Our setting was a bit weak, I'd say, in the last little run in 16, but it didn't matter. It got us there. And we were, that was,
so
go ahead.
You had one of the longest careers in the sport, playing professionally. What do you like? How'd you play for so long? You talked about a few injuries, but what do you think really allowed you to play and have such a long, successful career, Fred?
Yeah, I mean, I like, honestly, luck has a lot to do with it. I was lucky. I didn't have a surgery. My worst injuries were ankle sprains. I worked pretty hard in the weight room all the time. Like I was always strong. Didn't overdo it though. I wasn't a guy banging out like 500-pound deep squats or anything like that. I didn't like put too much stress on my body.
Yeah.
I also didn't watch what I ate when I was playing at all. like at all. I ate whatever I wanted. We were training twice a day, right? Like,
yeah.
So my situation is so different, like I just say luck. I was just lucky, because I don't want to say like, oh, I'm just so gifted, like I'm not going to say that. I was lucky, man. You land on someone's foot the wrong way, and instead of doing your ankle, you do your ACL. You're out for a year.
Yeah.
Didn't happen to me.
Well, you can thank your mom again for good genetics, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out to mom there.
Yeah.
What's the biggest difference between Fred Winters in 98 and Fred Winters like 2018? Mentally, physically? What was the growth there?
Physically, about 50 pounds. I'm fat now. But mentally, yeah, like 98, I was in 10th grade or 11th grade. We won the provincial championship for volleyball. Mm-hmm. I had that big bounce in the spike competition.
Yeah.
That you're talking about. I think the biggest thing now, and me and my wife have kind of adopted this might get into the mentals a bit, but my last my last 3 years of pro, I played 16, 17 in Poland on a great team. And then my last 2 years, I played in Portugal for Benfica, which is like a huge football club.
Yeah.
Um, my wife and I really enjoyed our experience my last 3 years of pro. I would say probably my last 3 years, not my best volleyball years. We won a bunch of titles in Portugal, and it was great. Not my best personal volleyball performance years, but lifestyle was the best. And it kind of, I've adopted this, like, this is going to sound cheesy, but this life is short kind of attitude now. Like, I'm 40 now, halfway done my life, and like, I'm not going to sit around and not do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So,
that's important though, to have that.
It's important. Yeah. Like we saw Portugal, the entire country, while I was playing there. Anytime I had 1 or 2 days off, boom, rent a car, go up to Porto, go to the beach, go down south. Like, we did that during the season.
Yeah.
Most guys are sitting on their couch, like, recovering. We enjoyed. We drank all the wine, had all the food. Still worked hard in the gym, still worked hard at training, still didn't miss any games, didn't have any injuries or anything like that. But we also went on big trips. After Poland, we went on a trip to Italy, because the big thing for like professional athletes is like the 12-year circuit, 8 or 9 months pro, 3 or 4 months national team.
Yeah.
But I stopped in 2016 with national team. That means but I knew I wanted to play pro still. So I had 4 months to stay in shape or enjoy life. And I actually happened to do both. Enjoyed life and stayed in shape, which was kind of nice. So I did that for about 3 summers. And then, just going back to the whole like enjoying life, I was back in the summer of 2019 in Vancouver. Wasn't sure where I was going to go play pro next. I didn't have a contract, but I was staying in shape in hopes that maybe I would go play. Didn't get any good offers. Then started getting some offers around Christmas time, like to go half year, but I was like kind of mentally checked out.
Yeah.
And just basically December 2019 said, okay, I'm not going to go. Let's start our second life. Then COVID hit. So that disrupted that whole year. So I'm kind of glad I didn't go over, because I would have gone over COVID lockdown. Some leagues finished, some didn't. It would have been a really bad year. Instead, I went out the 18-19 season. We won the championship in Portugal. Went out like that. COVID hit when I was in Vancouver, and my wife and I were just like, yeah, we like the Okanagan. Like, we can't afford a house that we want in Vancouver right now. Like,
crazy.
Let's go to the Okanagan. Yeah. So we went up here during COVID, had no jobs, didn't know what we were going to do. But that's kind of just how we've been living ever since.
Nice.
Just doing what we want when we want.
Doing what you want. And if anyone follows Fred's Instagram, you'll see you're a pretty chill guy. You play a lot of golf right now. So some big golf, like Grant Fear, Mark McGuire, Jerry Rice all tried to play pro golf after their sport careers. Are we going to see Fred Winters on the Champions Tour?
I mean, don't you have to win a PGA event to play on Champions Tour?
No, it's same as
you can qualify.
Q School. Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah,
it's way more competitive. Like, they only let previous champions get first priority, and then they open Q School to a few.
Yeah, I mean, I think like anyone in their 40s jokes about playing on Champions Tour and how great it would be, but I got a long way to go. I'm a recreational golfer who likes to gamble with my friends, but I'm not good at golf. I'm a 7-8 handicap.
Did you start playing wall?
But I'm trending down for sure.
Well, now that I don't have volleyball, you're starting to put on some extra weight, which is good for golf. I always say you start getting a belly, it's easier to swing around it. But did you start playing later in life? Didn't you, golf?
I played as a kid, but I was doing too many other sports. It was basically, I went with my friends and swung as hard at the driver as I could. That was like our golf. We'd play at Prospect Lake in Victoria, which is a 9-hole. Every once in a while we go to Cordova Bay, which is like our local 18-hole nice course.
Yeah.
But so I played a bit. I knew how to play. Like I knew how to swing a golf club, but I mean, all those years of playing pro, 20 years playing volleyball, I didn't really play golf a couple times in the summer. But then 2019, I say like my golf journey started in 2019 because I won an Instagram competition from Northview Golf and Country Club. On their hole, they had like a big Instagram cutout thing.
Yeah.
And it's like framed in Instagram, and it's like film your shot, and we'll on like it was a drivable par 4, and we'll announce the win, and the winner gets free golf for a month at Northview. They picked me. My friends say it's because of my blue check on Instagram, for sure. That's why. But so they picked me. So I got free golf at Northview, which is like a 36-hole, nice facility in Surrey. And I was in Victoria at the time. And I think I golfed there 16 times in the month. Like they picked the wrong guy. I had no job. I was just, so I was there every day, every other day.
Yeah.
And that's when I got like really big time hooked. And been playing ever since. It's such a good, it's the best sport. And I didn't say game.
Best sport.
It's the best sport because I can sit here as like a washed up volleyball player and I can improve at golf well into my 50s. Even when you get even into your 60s and 70s, you start going from shorter tees, but you're still shooting, you can shoot better scores. Like it just doesn't end. It's like 30 years of competitive bliss where you can actually see improvement instead of trying to play volleyball now, where or going to play basketball. Used to be able to do like any kind of dunk, and now I can't anymore. Whereas golf, you can just steadily improve. It's amazing that way.
It's really because people don't understand the magnitude of course management and managing your own
short game.
Yeah, like it's really,
you don't need to be strong to be lights out short game, which is like where all your strokes come from, putting and chipping.
I've lost more.
You can hack it up the fairway on a par 5, but if you can chip it up in one putt, you're walking away with a birdie or a par. Like it's just amazing.
Yeah. I've lost more lunch money to seniors that can chip and putt than I have young guys that can bomb at 300 yards.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Well, we're going to wrap up here. I got to ask, how many shoes in the shoe collection right now?
I sold a lot of my shoes. Probably, I think I always said that the most I had was like 400 and something pairs. So I was up there. But I've sold, kind of since COVID and up until now. I mean, I have a bunch of ridiculous shoes that I don't wear.
And
sorry. I got a call. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, good.
And where did it start? Where did the shoe kind of obsession start?
Yeah, it just kind of started from being young and single and having money, but also being overseas and not really knowing what to do with some of the disposable income I had, and having an obsession with like basketball shoes. So a lot of online purchases. I was like East Bay's number one customer for a while. I buy them, get them shipped to my parents' house, get them shipped to friend's house, and then wait 6 months until you get back to Canada, do the unboxings. Like I did that for a decade, I'd say.
Oh man.
Just stockpiling. If I was interested in a shoe, I would just buy it, not even worry about the price so much. But now I've just been kind of selling them. I only sell them if I make money on them. I kind of have a thing like I can't let a shoe go for less than I paid.
It's like investing. You never sell when it's down. Come on.
Yeah. It would just irk me. So I've been doing well with that. I basically sell a lot of shoes on Goat, that selling app.
Yeah.
Works out well. Pay a bit of a premium for shipping from Canada, but there's a big market in the US, and people overpay if they want that shoe. So that's kind of how I've been doing it for a bit. But yeah.
There we go. There's our financial advice for the show
250 pairs. Yeah. 250 pairs, I'd say.
Forget the crypto, like move into the shoe market.
Yeah. I mean, if it's funny because we're talking about sneakers now, but it's a competitive market, man. There's a lot. Everyone's trying to do the same thing with the same $120 Nike Dunk shoe, and they're all trying to flip them for $300, and it's tough. It's tough, but it would be. I'm not opposed to owning a sneaker shop or a shoe shop. That's something I'd love to be invested in.
Well, Fred, on a serious note, man, I commend you on your accomplishments. You have a huge decorated career. You can call it luck. I'd call it just, having a lot of natural talent, but a lot of hard work behind that as well, and having a great mother. But yeah, man, I commend you. I appreciate your time today. We'll jump off live here and kind of wrap up, but just want to thank you for your time, Fred, and commend you on your accomplishments.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I hope it was somewhat entertaining. I got a lot of stories. They don't come out until when I start talking about my career, kind of remember the stuff that happens, but organically, which is nice. It means I haven't forgotten about them, but I don't like to talk about my career that much. So this is cool.
No, it's awesome to hear, man. Right on. Thanks, Fred.
Okay, thanks.